Yes. Happy evening, everyone. Those joining from India, and a happy morning to those folks from US and Canada. Pleased to welcome you all to this big video conference session where two of our eminent experts and also steering committee members of SPIN Chennai, Mr. Ramesh Krishnamurthy and Mr. Shankaran Venkatramani. They both are going to be addressing. I will come back to introduce them one by one. But before that, I wish to say a few things and for those who are new to SPIN Chennai, and then hand it over to Dr. Ellen Rajaram, one of the core founding members of SPIN Chennai and the conference chair of the Digital Transformation Maturity Conference, which we are planning to host on September 24th. So as we speak, we are navigating a world with a lot of uncertainties and opportunities. So if you look at digital transformation, there is a huge opportunity. Whereas if you look at the brick and mortar kind of operation, there is a lot of uncertainty. At SPIN Chennai, in order to provide a clear view on where we stand today on digital transformation and where we are going, what is the goalpost? What is the methodology? Systematically, how do we evolve on digital transformation? So we are planning a conference on September 24th with the theme Digital Transformation Maturity, an imperative for rapid business growth. So please tune up to receive more info on this. If you are not yet a SPIN Chennai member or you want to be part of the SPIN ecosystem. SPIN, as you all know about, is almost a 25-year-old ecosystem. It's been very popular. Today we have more than 3,000 members connected to this. We are affiliated to Carnegie Mellon University Software Engineering Institute, as well as the global ISACA global body. Our vision is to build a world-class knowledge ecosystem, which is very compelling, highly relevant and value-adding to the people, that is the individuals, as well as the industry, distinctly futuristic and passionately co-creative. So if you see, when we say we are a global body, some of the people who, our founding members have been in touch with Dr. Watts Humphrey. For almost 10 years, Dr. Watts Humphrey was closely associated with SPIN Chennai, and in whose honor we have instituted the Watts Humphrey Awards to bring out the best case studies in the industry. We have had several international gurus associated with SPIN Chennai, including Louis Trigger from Israel, who is a theory of constraints expert, directly under the tutelage of Dr. Eli Goldratt, the author of theory of constraints. We had Bill Curtis from the US, who has contributed to the development of the world famous CMMI model, People CMM. Manu Vora, one of the top management consultants from the US. Mark Johnson, who is a management thought leader and co-founder of InnoSight from US. Dr. Jeff Sutherland, co-founder of Scrum, the model itself. Mr. Michael Krickman, author of the CXO Talk with more than 1,000 appearances. Mr. Barry Kriggs, ex-Microsoft CTO for IT. We have Steve Beres, partner at Bain, focusing on agile practice. Manuel Arriaga of Google, YouTube. Mr. Lakshmi Shankar, who is a senior product head at Twitter, who is in the top 10 of Twitter. Dr. David Duncan of InnoSight, MD. And several other Indian leaders and experts have been part of this SPIN Chennai over the last 2 years. So I will not take more time. At this time, I would like Dr. Ellen Rajaram, who is the conference chair for the SPICon 2021, the SPIN International Conference, on the theme Digital Transformation Maturity. With this, I request Dr. Eleanor to talk about the conference and why people should attend. And then we'll get on to the today's talk. Thank you very much, Dr. Leonard.
Thank you, Rajaram. And welcome everyone, and very happy and good evening to all of you. I would like to start off by recollecting the fact that we are in some kind of a strange time wrap of both exciting times and depressing times. Depressing because we know the situation we are in this current pandemic, and so many waves going up and down, and our lifestyles completely changed and our economy taking a big hit. And at the same time, if you want to look at the positive side, we have faced the situation boldly as a society. We come out with several innovative ways of tackling and ushering in new normals. And one of the things that we can anticipate in future is a complete transformation of the way businesses were before all this started, so that we go on to a next level of performance, so that we can be resilient against such unexpected black swans, as they call it in the probability theory. So we have seen this happening in the past quite some time, but the more relevant to our digital transformation journey are the four major, or rather the three major revolutions that took place starting from 200 years ago, when the first industrial revolution brought about a whole set of new manufacturing processes, which completely impacted the cottage level industries that were very highly prevalent across the world, and definitely much more in India. And India at that time, with that kind of a cottage industry, was holding more than 34% of the GDP across the world. And absolutely for reasons that were beyond our control, for due to things which happened in other parts of the world, this industry got kind of wiped out, and we hit a new low in that sense. Then the second one was the energy revolution of fossil fuels, which helped us to exploit other natural resources and also transform the transportation completely to make the world much smaller than what it was earlier. And that again introduced a totally new lifestyle, new ways of thinking, new businesses, new strategies for economic growth, and so on. And then more recently, the third one of information, which was ushered in through electronics, telecommunication, computing. All three together brought about the world much closer. Already the world was smaller, but it has brought much closer and more in real time than what it was earlier. So, and the gaps between these have been constantly and non-linearly rather decreasing. From 200 years, it became 50 years, and then 25 years, and now we are here in some kind of a fourth revolution of digital transformation. And every time this happens, we get swept out of off our feet, and unless we are prepared and we are mature enough to face such situations, we are going to be left out in the race for being a superpower and being increasing the quality of life of our own people. So basically, that was the context in which we thought we will have this conference as an initiative to see that we don't miss the bus again. and we are prepared. We have a maturity model for this digital transformation with all the people who are in the industry, academia, and uh, other consulting and so on, so that we all come together and chart out a course of action for ourselves rather than depending on the world to move forward and be doing the catch up game again and again. So that this is the motivation with which we have provided this theme for this conference that we are likely to hold, which we are decided to hold on September 24th. And as Dr. Rajaram, my namesake, said earlier, the theme is digital transformation, maturity, an imperative drive for growth economy. So basically, you will see that it covers two aspects whose prelude is what you are going to get today. Basically, the fact that digital transformation is it just a immediate target to be achieved, or is it a long journey with changing goalposts? As Ramesh, I would think, would elaborate on. And if we are to get there, what processes we need to align, how all the activities that we are involved in, how all the strategies for business need to be aligned so that we can be prepared for that digital transformation. So those are the, that is why we have thought that we will have this prelude today as a kind of a curtain raiser for our conference. Conference itself is going to talk about several things. First, of course, we'll have a session on what exactly is digital transformation that we are talking about, and more importantly, what it is not. This is not just another IT initiative or IT enablement. And secondly, we will also take a little deep dive into the emerging technologies that would be impacting this digital transformation. And if we want to be prepared for that, we need to be prepared and leverage on these technologies. The next session would tell us about the success stories. There are a lot of speakers from several leading enterprises from India who would be speaking on their success stories, and from which we can learn and we can see what are the pitfalls and what are the right things that they did if we want to take it up for ourselves. And as delegates who are not in the senior positions of decision making, probably what you will get is also insights into your own career path. Where should you go? How should you leverage on the forthcoming events that are likely to happen, and which areas you can develop your skills so that you're ready when this transformation happens, and you can look at all those things. And the next session will talk about framework and models where major companies that have already worked on it would provide us with those insights. And finally, we'll have a panel discussion to decide on the fact that there is definitely a need for an India-centric model, which will be our contribution to the world, rather than following any other standard from outside of this place, because we are the largest market and the largest corporate scene in the world right now. So we would like to have our own model, and the panel will discuss as to how to go about doing it and how to organize this, and how within 6-7 months we should be in a position to have a model which government and enterprises can adopt. So this is what the conference is going to be. And so thank you very much for the opportunity and for your patience in listening to this pitch that I made more as a motivational aspect for you to attend. As the organizers would tell you, there is no registration fee. However, your participation will give us a lot of encouragement in this endeavor that we have taken upon ourselves to provide and lead in India. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, sir. I think that was a fantastic overview on the conference. No, we are all really excited for the day to listen to all the speakers about the fantastic things that are happening across the world. The speakers have done real transformation of major industries. It is not about adopting some technology for digital transformation. It is about disrupting and coming out with a new process, new paradigm itself. That is what we are going to see during the conference. And today, it is going to be two interesting speakers. First, Mr. Ramesh Krishnamurthy, CEO of Indium Software. He is all known to all of you, many of you, because he was the past president, and he has been part of many discussions. He has more than 25 years of experience in the IT industry in both entrepreneurial and senior management roles. He is a thought leader in the software testing industry, having spent the past 1.5 decades managing and delivery for customers across the globe, spanning software quality assurance and testing services. He has traveled extensively, both domestic and international, to understand customer requirements. He is one who understands the global customer's pulse, right? Some of the key areas of interest for him include building niche products around the service lines to keep ahead of the competition. Very, very interesting. The topic, digital transformation. Is there a goalpost? I think beautifully structured. So we are all ears, Ramesh. So we would like to know, is there a goalpost? Over to you.
Thank you. Or two of them.
Thank you so much, President Rajaram, and and also Dr. Eleanor. Thank you for that generous introduction. And I think the structure of this session, as this is basically a prelude to the conference. And what we are going to share is primarily some of the thought process, and also some of the questions we may raise that we are trying to address during the conference. And we have a Q&A session, and towards the end in this event. And if any of those questions are unanswered, I'm sure you are going to attend the conference to get all the answers. So with that, let me share my screen. Tell me if you are able to see my screen.
Yep, we can.
Awesome. Okay, digital transformation is a goalpost. I think digital transformation is one of the most abused twin word for the last several years, maybe 6, 7, 8, 10 years, digital transformation. But still, if you look at it, we still continue to talk about it, primarily because there is still no clear understanding about what is digital. Okay. So unless we have an understanding of what is digital, we can't actually talk about transforming to one. So I think that's very, very important that we understand what is digital, and then we talk about transformation. And it's very important today that, because everybody around us, like this conference that we are doing now, even that we are doing now, it could have been an event that would have done in a physical location. But thanks to all these things, we are able to do it no matter where you are located. So what I'm going to talk about today is primarily to share some thought process on is there a goalpost? I need to transform. We need to transform digitally. Everybody talks and agrees to that point. But is there a goalpost? Okay, if there is a goalpost, whether there should be one, how do we go about it? So that is primarily what this session is going to be. Okay, let me move my screen. You can not able to do that. Okay. So what I'm going to cover in next 15-20 minutes is what is digital transformation. It's important to know when we are talking about digital transformation, what actually is the digital transformation. And then little bit going into why digital transformation is important for us. And then touching upon where is my goal post. Okay. The topic is there a goalpost? I'm trying to allude into saying that, hey, where is my goalpost kind of? And then the digital transformation journey. Okay, so this is broadly what I'll be covering in next 15-20 minutes. And you would all agree that each one of these four things, we can go on and on and on speaking for each one of it. It may take 1 hour each minimum to talk about, to do any justification to that. But what I have done is that condense to that extent possible and see that what is that I can do. So maybe 1 or 2 slides I may have in each one of these. Okay, it's not moving.
You can come out and reopen it again.
Maybe I'll go to next this way. Okay, this is working. Okay. Well, I think I need to change the laser pointer. It's not working for me. Okay, sure. Now it's fine. Okay, so there are 5 stages of digital transformation, as you all may know and seen it. I have taken this from internet. There are the first stage is that we don't need to change, right? I'm a happy situation. Nothing is happening. I'm okay. I'm in content space. I'm happy. My team is happy. My customer is happy. Everybody is happy. So we are in a denial stage of, is there a transformation that is needed at all? And then why is everything changing? Suddenly you look at it. Oh my God, I'm like this. I don't want any change to happen. But I see that there are a lot of things that are changing around me. How do I really go and address it? That's where the anger thing comes and why things are changing around me. And then to get into the what's the minimum. So now that the acceptance comes, like everything is changing. So I cannot be contented with just that. I'm happy with whatever I'm doing. So the pressure comes in to say that what is the minimum thing I can go ahead and change. So what I do in that kind of a situation, I go and do, maybe there are 10 things that I have to do ideally for transformation. What I will do is that I will go and say, hey, can I do this one? Can I do this two? Can I do this three? What is the minimum thing that is required for me to say that, okay, I am a digital transformed organization. Okay. So that is what comes to that if you are not ready upfront. And we'll say that we'll never be able to change. If you cross that bridge, if you cross the bridge is fine. If you're not able to cross the bridge, then you get into a deep depression. The depression starts like, oh my God, what do I do now? Now there is a total chaotic situation, right? I don't know where to start. I don't know. Everything has changed outside. So it's basically you're waiting to ensure that everybody beats you in the competition outside. And then finally, I accept it. And maybe if we just change our CMO, and this is another perspective here. Why the CMO factor, right? There is a thought that digital is primarily the marketing or those kind of digital transformation that happens. Primarily maybe because all the organization today want to be as much available on all the social media platforms. So if I'm available in all the social media platforms, whatever I do, I communicate and say this is what I do and things like that. That is one level of saying that I'm digital, but that is not. That is the acceptance level comes, and that is basically not where you may want to change. Now, having said that, now what is that you have to do to transform? What is that you need to do to transform? There are several aspects and several aspects. I'm sure many of you would have your own experiences of going about it. But the key factors when we're talking about transform, you need to transform everything. You need to transform everything. The major problem that happens is that when you want to do a digital transformation, we pick and choose one or two or three or four or five areas. Those are not sufficient. If we have to transform, we have to transform everything. Everything starting from people mindset, right from the leadership down to the level. Everybody needs to be transformed as far as digital is concerned. Okay, just not the digital marketing. Digital marketing is just one. I think that is what many of think that digital marketing I do and things like that. No, it's totally several things out of that. And some of the examples, if you look at it, why people is important, right? In some of the BPO experts, you may know that many of the, it says 7-8 years back, 10 years, there was a BPO, several people were employed and things like that. And then came this automation, wave of automation. And this wave of automation, what it did was it transformed all the repeatable jobs they tried to automate. And some of the things that were very clear, which could be repeatable, was some of them are the BPO kind of jobs, the auditing jobs, the accounting work and things like that. Those were the kind of processes which are repeatable, were converted into into digital or into automation. Now, the main factor behind, if you look at it, what is the takeaway is what happens to people. There are hundreds and people working in several of the BPOs. So what happens when you get into that level of automation? And you may not be surprised. We all have heard this, that several of the BPO companies, they went and told their employees that they need to start learning Python. And Python is like, how do I go and learn Python? Okay, so when I came to know about it, heard about it, I was thinking, hey, how can somebody learn? Because Python is like technical, you need to be a developer and things like that. But believe me, there are several of those BPO organizations where employees were trained. Those companies trained them. Many of the employees learned themselves, because Python, you need not be an expert in it. The level of experience or expertise that you need to know to just to automate one particular small processes, because you are a domain expert. So you are a domain expert, learn Python, you can do it yourself. So people aspect is very important. The change should come from the people. Then the next important is the culture. Culture is extremely important. People will change, but what about the culture? Culture, we need to shift from the static to dynamic thought process. What I mean by static to dynamic thought process is, today everything is changing. There is nothing which is like, permanent. And again, I don't want to use that word, but people keep saying that change is the only thing that is constant. But then what is that we are doing about it, right? We know that, but what are we doing about it? So it's very important that our thought process change from the static to dynamic thing. For example, you have metrics. What do you do with the metrics? What are the inferences that we can make out of it? What are the trends that is coming out of it? How do you learn those trends? That is a cultural aspect which is very important. And that goes right from, again, taking from the people aspect. There is a lot of learning. That learning from the people aspect, cultural is very important. So it goes not just at the work level. This culture goes to the academia, either educational institutions, where the way how they are taught and things like that, it goes to that level to understand that I don't just think here to solve the problem that is facing today. If you solve a problem today, okay, that is fine. But are you solving a problem which is not likely to come? Or you anticipate something? So that is a cultural shift that is needed. And tools is another extremely important aspect in the whole thing, right? So use the tools for everything that you do. Use as much, abuse it, I would say, use the word, and try to build an ecosystem of all the tools. You may have tools in organization. If you look at it, there will be hundreds of tools, but all these tools, are they talking to each other? If they cannot talk to each other, it will not make any sense. And that is exactly what in the digital transformation biggest problem when you look at enterprises is they have lot of data. We talk about this big data, I don't know, 15 years, 20 years back. But what are we doing about it? The big data is there. The data is there across the enterprises. And each of these data is being generated by several of these applications and tools. So what do you do about it, right? Unless and until you have a process in which you can combine all this entire data and make some meaningful result out of it, it does not make any sense. So moving from simple, I'm Excel. If I'm Excel, am I a digital company? Okay. Now, from Excel today, I do a Power BI dashboard. If I do a Power BI dashboard, am I a digital company? Now, Power BI dashboards could be a next one more level where if I have an Excel, then I can actually represent the Power BI dashboards in some more pictorial representation where it is very easy for us to infer and make some decisions. But Excel experts will argue saying that, hey, I can create some beautiful dashboards better than Power BI because I'm expert. I'm an expert from Excel. Sorry. So it is just not the bringing some tools to make a dashboard, but then what are we doing? What are we doing from the data, from the inferences? Are we using any of this AI and ML inferences, and then are we doing any forecasting mechanism? Believe me, the kind of changes that is happening across the world, especially in India, if you look at it, there are several large manufacturing units which are transforming the way they are actually looking at data. And it is helping them. For example, plant maintenance and things like that. How can you forecast in any maintenance aspect, and then there is a shutdown and things like that. Those are the things which are very, very important. So you need to, coming back to this, transform everything, transform people, transform culture, and use as many tools as possible, because that's only is going to help in transforming. Now, why aspect is very important, very, very important. That I know what is digital transformation, briefly spoke about it. Now, this all is fine, but why I should do this, right? Why I should do this? Okay. Now, it should not be, certainly it should not be because of some of the external things that may be coming around your business. It could be anything. It could be a new business model would have come, and it will completely destabilize your business. So you should, the digital transformation is something you should not do because of something, because if you're acting, you're not actually acting, you're basically reacting. And when you react, you're already late. And believe me, and you may all agree to this, that on one side of it, because whatever situation pandemic we are seeing for the last 1.5 years or 2 years, there are several of the organizations who have taken advantage of this, and their share prices have gone leaps and bounds. And at the same time, last 1.5 years, I have seen that several of the competition is died, vanished. Businesses have vanished. So it's important that how do we embrace digital thing, much before in hand, like 4 or 5 years back, wherever enterprises were embraced, those were the first companies who could start working remotely, because they were actually already working. They had the processes, they had the tools and everything to work whichever way. It did not make any difference to them. Now people may say that, okay, if it is a factory, then how do we go about it? And we all know that the ABB factory in Germany somewhere, it is the world's first 100% automated warehouse. That is what is Industry 4.0 is. We are talking about that last 10 years. How do we, so we keep talking, but how do we actually act on it? How do we embrace it is what is going to make one different from others. So the primary thing is that staying always ahead of competition. Staying ahead of competition is very, very important, because primarily, if you look at it, that is the whole idea. So you need to build solutions for tomorrow. If I build something for today, it is, as we said, it is changing. Today is changing. As we speak now, things are changing, right? So when things are changing, you can't build for today. You need to have the forethought. You need to have the foresight of tomorrow. How do we go about it? How do I know about it? Is what couple of slides back I said, that you need to have the tools to have the insights, creating those things from the ALML. So build the solutions for tomorrow. And most of the data, how do you go about? Most of the data is already available, and many of the data, I'm sure that you can always buy the data, right? It's available. And the bottom line is this. The bottom line is this, that if the moment you digitally transform yourself, and if we help our customer beat their competition, that's about it. The reason why it is important is that it's important that we become partner in progress as far as customers are concerned. Many a times what happens is that we need to get engaged with the customers to understand what their pain points are, and just not the end user applications that needs to be transformed. You need to be transforming each and everything within the organization, which is very, very important. And if we help customers in the digital transformation journey to beat their competition, believe me, the success is going to be very, very long time. And today, if you look at it, there is no such competition as such, that there is a tier 1 company, tier 2 company, tier 3 company. I'm talking about the companies in the setup of tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. That is now broken. Many of you will agree that we are seeing ourselves that many of the tier 1 company, tier 2 companies, businesses are coming to others. We are looking at more of customers are looking at more boutique shops who have very specific, skill set, who can specifically address some of the problems. That is on the size and scale of the organization. Similarly, there are tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities, like, for example, everything was happening in tier 1 cities, then there's a tier 2 cities. Now today, people are sitting in places like Timbuktu, somewhere, does not really matter, right? As long as I have a laptop and I have a connection, I can start working. And this statement, what I just made, that if I have a laptop and a connection, I can start working. Believe me, this statement was made about 20 years, 25 years back, when the internet was born and we could get connected. But the reality is happening today. Today is when we are actually reaping the benefit of that, where people are working remotely and really contributing productively and to the betterment of the customers and things. This is total things are changing, and yeah, sure, I have to change this a bit. Goalpost. Okay, coming to the goalpost thing, what I started off with, after talking about what and why, is there should be a goalpost, right? I mean, there should be a goalpost, or should not be a goalpost. If I have a goalpost, I achieve the goalpost, I'm done and dusted, right? If there is no goalpost, then I can look at it somewhere saying that, okay, there are several things, is basically continuous and it does not, stop anywhere. I see Raghav here, so I don't know how much I'm doing. Okay, I have 5-10 minutes more. So goalpost. going to that, score multiple times is what you see on the, sorry. Please bear with me for shifting this. Scoring multiple times here is primarily, I'm saying that if you are, and this is the analogy I'm taking with football, primarily next slide also. And I'm sure that everyone here understands football as a game and how it is played and things like that. So scores multiple times. It's not that when you play in a football game, it's not that you score a goal and then the referee whistles and say end of the game, bye. No. So there is a 90 minutes. So what happens is that it's not 1-0, 2-0, 4-0, 4-3, 5-3, 6-3. There is nothing like there's 90 minutes and you score as much as you can. So goalpost, coming to this goalpost here, goalpost is a good starting point. You need to have a goalpost. If you don't have, you will not know where you are going. You don't know what is that you're targeting. You will not know what you are going to achieve. And the departments and functions, how do you really go about it? You may want to start with those that are key to the business. That are key to the business, because what, again, I said in the last slide, like, most of the time it happens that customer facing applications, why don't we change? But what you need to change is those are the functions which are extremely critical to business. So that is how we need to see it. And then you can make it multiple, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months kind of a, journey. And then you measure it in a 90-minute football game, how you would measure. That is how you need to measure. Okay. Now, this is where I'm coming from. So if you have watched a football game, right? I used to wonder all the time that the coach will be running around the line and shouting and showing his hands here, hey, why don't you go here, there, and all those kind of things. I used to think that what is this coach is going to do, shouting all this thing from outside? Does it really make any difference? And things, whether guys are hearing, listening, players are listening, and things like that. I later understood that in the 90 minutes there are several strategies are made. Things are made depending upon how the opposition is playing. Coach will go, manager will go and say, hey, why don't you make these changes and things like that. The reason I'm making this inference here is basically because our digital transformation journey is very, very similar to that of, can be compared with that of a football game. I will tell you, I have one more slide to go on that, so that bit of under the explanation there. So if you look at it, football strategy, I found this very interesting analogy, right? So many of you know that there are different strategies that are adopted as far as football is concerned. So one is the tiki-taka. Okay, tiki-taka is basically attacking play with short passes. You would have seen this, like some of the Brazilians and those kind of countries, they play that kind of small passes and things like that, which actually helps in forming smaller goals to achieve digital transformation. You may not have a long thing, like 2 years, 5 years kind of thing. You can make small goals for your small things, passes, what we want to do, and achieve your your goals and goals for towards digital transformation. Another is known as a route one, which is basically a defensive play with long passes. Those digital strategies for medium to long term, because you may not be able to do everything once. So when you are making a digital transformation strategy, you may have to say, what are the quick passes I need to, what are the quick goals that I need to achieve, and what are the things which I know that it will not be able to achieve in near term, but what is that I can achieve in the medium and the long term. And there are high pressure, right? The attack by pressuring the opposition. So primarily, if you look at it, it's like a COVID-19 digital transformation journey, where I just got into it, high pressure, and I do it, I win it. If I don't do it, I mess it up. So it's basically that kind of a strategy. That strategy will help if you have not done any strategy before, you're getting and jumping into it and then get into a high pressure. The other one is that the last one is the park the bus, is primarily a contained defensive style. So typically parking the bus in football, what happens? We have scored 2-0 against a tough opponent, and then there are about, say, 20 minutes of play left. And then what you do is that all the players will go to their goal post and they will be only guarding the goal post. They will not play, thinking that those guys will win. But But what could happen is that if there is a Messi or Ronaldo who can just go and score 3 goals in last 2-3 minutes or extra time if they permit. So this is only a strategy, not a strategy, but waiting to be beaten by competition. There are several strategies, but I thought that this is very good comparison with respect to digital transformation, since I thought I can make here and share with all of you here. The endless journey, the final, I'll just take one more minute or two couple of minutes, the endless journey. So we saw what is digital transformation, why it is important. And then a bit spoke about, is there a goal post? How do we go about it, and things like that. And then when we go about it, now what do? I have done 1, 2, 3. I know this now. I'm become more intelligent and knowledgeable, and I'm aware of what all these things. So how do I continue my journey? Okay, now this is what it is. So the journey could be in one of these boxes or more of boxes. The box 5, I'm sorry, I couldn't edit it. That should have been the N, number N, not number N, the alphabet N. I couldn't edit it, sorry. So one is like, I have a digital transformation journey. I phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase N. I may have a stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage N. I have, otherwise I'll say mine is the elementary model now. I get into a defined, I go to mature stage, enhanced stage, or intelligent stage, where everything is, automated and a lot of AI ML's work. And then, or maybe a manual standard practice, or you have a optimization, automation, and intelligent kind of thing. And these models can go on. And what do you see this 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 or N is primarily your maturity model. Okay. Now, I'm not going to talk about the maturity model here. And the reason for me not to talk about it here is primarily because you're going to hear all these things in SpyCon 21 Digital Transformation Maturity. Please, all of you who are attending this session, I'm sure there's going to be several wealth of information, knowledge. Each one of you are going to take back home and learn and implement in your organization. Thank you very much. It has been very interesting to talk to all of you. I hope, I could make some sense about whatever I could speak. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Fantastic, Ramesh. Very, in a very short time, you covered quite a ground. So there are goalposts, as Dr. Eleanor said, there are at least 2 of them. So, you might ask, hey, where are they? Then you attend digital transformation conference and you will get to know all of it, right? Now, the next speaker we are going to invite for you is Mr. Shankaran Venkatramani, who is Executive Director at KPMG. Shankaran is very well known in the process circles, right? He is somebody who lives and breathes process almost every day. He has been part of so many CMMI assessments, not only in India, but even abroad. So he is going to be talking about his pet subject. So what is the process? How do you align your journey with digital transformation? See, there cannot be 2 tracks. There is one going on digital and another going parallelly in the regular stream. So it is very important as an organization, if you want to make a big impact, and if you want to be really competitive, if you want to be presenting a fantastic customer experience, then you need to be fully aligned, well-coordinated organization. So what is process? What is the process to do that? How do you align with the ways of working? It's going to be a very, very interesting session. Over to you, Shankaran.
Thank you, Dr. Rajaram. Am I audible? Just a quick audio quality check.
Yes.
Excellent. Sure. So as Ramesh gave the foundation with the football example, I would request for extra time during my session as well. So it's a great foundation from the team. Now, interestingly, when we all think about digital transformation, while Ramesh covered a broader ground in terms of the strategizing them, the methods are also very, very important. In the current context, the way the industry is changing, the kind of experiences we are going through turbulent times, winds of change sweeping through the world, the ways of working is absolutely needed in all construct. When I'm talking about ways of working, I'm not talking in any isolated manner. It's a method of conducting a business. Ways of working is there in every department, every function. How do we do that? We make time and again, we keep calling them in different terminologies. We may call it as organizational processes, business processes, ways of working, new normal. Now people have started talking about next normal. Interestingly, in all of these changes, I came across one article where the management researcher Blanchard and Harris used to call it as a DVF framework. And it's a very interesting framework. And this was discovered roughly about 20-25 years back. And it is so relevant in the current context. Many things which our researchers identified several years back are coming to life now when certain changes are taking place. And DVF framework is very simply put, the product of D, V, F, if it is greater than R, then change will happen. So what does that actually mean? D stands for dissatisfaction of the present. Somewhere along the line, there has to be an uncomfort in the way we are doing things, dissatisfaction of the present. V stands for vision of the future. The one will have to think like a visionary. How will then the future should look like? I'm sure that I'm not comfortable now. How does the future should look like? That's the vision for the future. And you cannot stop with the vision. F stands for the first step that we take. That's the action. Dissatisfaction of the present, vision for the future, and the first step that we take, the action that we take. If the product of these three is greater than R, R stands for resistance. If the product of these three is greater than R, then the change will happen. Yes,
Shankaran, just wanted to alert you, the slides are moving.
Oh yeah, sure. I've still not moved the slides.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
So that's where the DVF framework typically comes. And it is so true, so relevant to the current context that we're talking about, that all along I think Dr. Rajaram and Dr. Eleanor also started off this conversation by talking about uncertainty. And we kept on talking about industry scenario as VUCA. And you know what, friends? We are changing now. VUCA is actually evolving into a new term called RUPT, Center for Creative Leadership, created this term. It's not we at KPMG created this. This is CCL, who earlier coined the industry scenario as being volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Now they say that it is evolving into a ruptured world. And the ruptured world, they pick up those RUPT, rapid demands, rapid changes taking place around us. We all know unpredictable. Although we keep predicting with variety of data and variety of levers, many things are unpredictable. We have got to be ready with plan A, plan B, and there are letters up to Z, right? Different plans to be ready. The CEOs and the leadership team are grappling with the situation of short-term and long-term plan. While we have to have both, maintain a balance, there are contradictory situation, conflicting situation where currently whatever is relevant 5 years down the line may not be relevant anymore. That doesn't mean that I have to discontinue them today, because I have to stay relevant for the current context, be prepared to transform for the future. What I'm currently doing may not be what I will be doing later. So that's a situation typically referred to as paradoxical situation. Paradoxical scenario where balance of leadership team between short-term and long-term goals and stay relevant while continue to focus on the future. We have got to be relevant even 3 years down the line, 4 years down the line, and 5 years down the line. And we are living in an environment which is tangled. Tangled is nothing but the connectedness. Everything is connected with each other. You can't avoid it. In an organization, almost like our metabolism, everything is connected. So doing anything in an isolated manner is not going to yield the results what we are typically looking for. I thought while we move on to ways of working, let's also look at some of the statistics in digital. And you will come to know why this PyCon conference on this particular year is very important for all of us, because there are so much of takeaways going to be there in the conference. Back in 2018, along with World Economic Forum, Bain did the research. Hay also joined looking at this in terms of the disruption from a digital standpoint. Roughly about 80% of digital leaders opined that new ways of working is going to be the key enabler for their organization success. When 2018 may not be the times of COVID, slightly pre-COVID. And almost 65% of today's younger generation, we could see, will work with certain job types which don't even exist yet. When we all have kept our kids away from gadgets and devices, today, if they come out of it, we are questioning them, why are you not in front of the laptop? Or you're not attending the class in schools? Things will change so fast. 73% of employers, the organizations report, the lack of skills going to be a bigger challenge and bigger nightmare in the context of digital transformation. That's the line of thinking getting into. Now, when we look at the certain survey outputs in the recent times, as recent as 2019, 2020, we could see roughly about 2018, 2019, somebody predicted even, sources such as PTC, IDG, they all actually predicted the spend for the organization from the enterprise perspective about $2 trillion in 2020. Now, by 2025, looking at the current state, people are talking about $3.3 trillion compounded annual growth rate growing in the range of 23 to 25%. We could see many startup organizations, 55%, adapting, and 38% at the enterprise level. I completely agree with what Ramesh said. No question of categorizing tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 companies anymore. It's all the ability to pull up the capabilities and solve an issue for our clients. The top benefits that have also evolved very clearly is on the customer expectations, new way of product quality, giving a new experience to the customers, improving the operation efficiency, top-notch, perspectives. What will be the key takeaway of adopting digital model? And from, again, a perspective of who is going to be a biggest barrier or impediment. Interestingly, 32% of the respondents actually said in that survey is no one going to be. However, CEOs, senior executive team, department heads all have a major role to play in taking the transformation successfully in the organization. And it is not about just one function, not about one department. It is the entire enterprise. And typically, where does the entire digital business mean to the organizations? Very interestingly, many people said, gone are the times where we are going to sell products or solutions or services. Time has come to sell the experience. So meeting customer experience expectations has become a biggest priority. We should be able to go back and tell the customer what should be their requirements even before they come to know of it. So that's the typical situation, how digital levers and digital collaborators can be used. On the other hand, there are continued business survey as recent as even 2020, predictions coming through where very clearly the business adoption is going to be roughly about 90% of the companies have already adopted a digital first business strategy. It's become part of the top agenda. And executives clearly say that what we are experiencing is going to be faster cycle time to market so that our customers get what they want as quickly as possible so that they can be successful in their business. While on the other hand, we will also see exclusive accountability, such as a chief digital officer role, something like that. Some of the companies have also opined that that has resulted to 1.6 times the successful transformation, because somebody is made accountable, they have a team, get the movement and transformation going on successfully in the organization. While Gartner also agreed when they did the survey with about roughly about 260 leadership team, they came out very clearly saying that at least 7 in 10 board of directors leadership team have put this on an expedited mode, a digital business initiative in the wake of pandemic crisis. Acceleration, roughly about 70% have accelerated digital business initiatives. Close to about 60% have focused on operational excellence that they wanted to increase going forward, covering cost of selling, cost of delivery, cost of operations. How do we look at operational excellence overall? And high degree of cost optimization focus where the digital initiatives are likely to take the enterprises together. So the focus on increased investment, the time to be spent on this, effort to be spent, interestingly, very clearly coming out with multiple surveys that CEOs are now placing this on the top of their agenda to get this done, not only for enabling our business, but also within the organization. So it is now, friends, not about just customer experience, user experience, about everyone's experience, including our employees. While we talked about these surveys, just to get the landscape, KPMG also did the CEO Outlook survey. We spoke to roughly about 125 CEOs. 125 CEOs in the KPMG International Global Survey and also exclusive India survey that you see here in terms of the numbers in different sectors, fast moving consumer goods sector, retail sectors, the investment around technology, 62% of the CEOs from these sectors are going to focus on investing in buying new technologies, undoubtedly. And roughly about 80% of the CEOs in India say, yes, pandemic did accelerated the digital operations, no doubts about it. About half of the CEOs also agree to the same sentiments. But keep in mind the concerns. In manufacturing sector, Ramesh also talked about the manufacturing perspective. Roughly about 71% of the CEOs in India from manufacturing sector would focus on investing in upskilling and reskilling their workforce. Absolutely essential. Unless otherwise that happens, this successful transformation is not going to be a see-through. Now, when we also look at comparative from a global CEO's perspective, by and large, we are same in terms of operation digitization, creation of next generation operating model, or seamless digital customer experience. We agree with global, but slight variation, marginal difference that we could see in terms of putting the new workforce model, strengthening with automation and the AI technologies. We could see Indian CEOs showing a lot more, and 74% showing up that accelerated mode, that they witnessed that we need to create new workforce model and new digital business models and new revenue streams. When we also looked at some of these dimensions in terms of looking at CEOs in India, what kind of hindrances, what kind of impediments they are likely to face in terms of on their journey in accelerated adoption of digital transformation. You can look at it. Lack of skills at the top, 23 to 24% people are saying, and roughly about the second in score is new ways of working. Lack of adequate insight in future operation scenarios that can potentially become a biggest impediment. And the rest follows in terms of what technology we need to invest upon. There are so many tools, so many technologies that are there. What can be invested upon? How do we, once we invest in a technology, pilot it and move it from pilot to deployment stage, complete institutionalization of technology? How do we accelerate the progress in terms of funding that is needed, capital that is needed to do the investment? All of these are going to be the next in line in terms of looking at the kind of hindrances the CEOs and the leadership teams are facing. And these are the opportunities in front of those companies who are going to provide the technology advisory, right? And what kind of the essence CEOs have positioned for new workforce models that are likely to implement new work reality measures, roughly about 90% saying that we will continue to use digital collaboration and communication tools. And about 48 to 49% are saying that we will downsize on office space. So although as we are slowly coming out of COVID, hopefully we should come out of it as quickly as possible as the offices are resuming, we may still land up with doing hybrid model. Right, and still a lot of, as Ramesh rightly mentioned, go back to tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 cities, wherever you have excellent talent available. Remote working has widened the talent pool, roughly about 77 to 78% talking about it. Right, so that's where in different sectors perspective, almost 66% of the CEOs in India foresee remote working models as an opportunity to engage with wider talent pool that are available in the country across. Having said all of these, the last slide in terms of looking at the statistics, you can see different sectors, right? CEOs, roughly about from BFSI, FMCG have opined that digitization of operations have indeed expedited. And 62% of the CEOs from manufacturing sector also agree, yes, pandemic has only accelerated the digitization of operation. Creation of seamless digital customer experience. You can see compared to even technology, BFSI and FMCG and retail, almost 100% of the CEOs agree that it has expedited in the adoption of digital. And of course, new workforce model with human workers augmented with automation and AI is all on the cards. As we are talking in the industry 4.0, in the cusp of it, already some parts of the countries have started talking about industry 5.0 with the intervention of not just robots, it's cobots. Collaborative bot technologies are on the way very soon, and leader will have 6 resources, manpower resources, as so as to say, out of 6 he may have about 3 human beings and 3 robots who are actually going to help him in meeting with the expectations. Now, as we see, just to get the landscape in terms of the numbers and why there is a need to attend the conference to do a lot of takeaways, I think predominantly Ramesh covered this point. Important before we start looking at ways of working is to differentiate between these terminology, not to fall a prey or get into a trap of, what is digitization or digitalization or digital transformation. Digitization is more conversion of analog paperwork into digitalized format and making it available. And digitalization, it's all about process. Improve the business process by leveraging variety of technologies, which will focus on improved revenue, improved operation efficiency, maybe the interventions of chatbots to do the clarifications instead of human being doing it. When we are talking about digital transformation, it is always at the enterprise level. It is at the business level that you're talking about, the organization level, which will encompass the entire business ecosystem, business models, and consumer and employee experience. So as to say in a nutshell, when we say DIKW, when we say DI, data and information and digitization, whereas digitalization will complete it with KW, which is data, information, knowledge, and wisdom. That's all about processes and interactions. And when we say digital transformation, enterprise architecture, then we talk about at an enterprise level. Digital transformation must be led always from a business perspective. And we are all familiar with PPT, not just PowerPoint technology, but it is people, process, technology, and governance. All business process, whatever the operations that we do, all of these come together. It is an inclusive approach, friends. So it is an informed decision that we need to take a collective approach. Everything has to come together. Ways of working in the marketing, in the sales, in the HR, everywhere. The entire ecosystem that you're talking about, with which we are able to transform our entire business. A classic example in the current context where this has become a reality is economic value progression. Today, the companies are thinking through on these lines, where we need to charge premium to our customers compared to what the market offers. And if we have to charge premium, then we need to have a differentiated service offerings. So if you look at the graph of moving from undifferentiated to differentiated service offerings to a market pricing to travel the journey towards premium pricing, we can start by selling certain products. Many competition come in, then it becomes a commodity. We sell the commodity, you cannot charge premium because there is no differentiation in the commodity. Then we start thinking innovative products to be brought in so that we bring in innovative features which will act as a value proposition for the client and key differentiation. Slowly the differentiation comes in and we can go near the premium pricing. So that's about innovative product, but you cannot stay there for a long time because once you bring in the innovative product, competitors will wake up. And then from innovative product, travel the journey towards providing the service. Now people talk about product as a service, because in services, we can stay with the client for a longer time. Because of our product and solution, the challenges client face, maybe we can participate and get rid of those bottlenecks. So convert product as a service to move towards a service orientation. So then typically we don't sell the product. We tell the customer, we are giving you the product. We will also come along and help you in leveraging the product to make your business successful. Slightly we can go about bringing in the differentiation and go near the premium, still not sufficient. And the last stage is called staging the experience. From product as a service, we move towards servitization. Servitization is a concept today becoming a big hit. And that's possible with the combination of putting a strong set of methods and ways of working that would successfully lead the organization towards digital transformation. Thereby, the business model will become servitization. For instance, there is a famous, I like this classic experience of an aircraft engine manufacturer who was manufacturing aircraft engines and selling to different airlines and selling the engine as a product, suddenly realized, why can't we embrace variety of technology and start developing and manufacturing a speaking product, a speaking aircraft engine? Can you believe it? Speaking engine. What do you mean by speaking? Whenever aircraft is feeling feverish, I'm using a lighter note, whenever the aircraft engine is going to go down, it will interact with the service engineer and give him the early warning signal that, you know what, I'm going to go down the next 15 hours, do something for me. Transformation of information and technology to link with the product, speak to the product, and then the aircraft manufacturer says, okay, fine. Now, if we are able to build in and leverage all these transformation, our ways of working is changing. Now the standard operating procedures, the service engineer will carry through wearable devices. He will not carry physically, go immediately to the engine, start looking at wearing the smart glass, look at the work instructions, fix it in no time. Access to the database of workarounds, which are lakhs and lakhs of workarounds, quickly through the devices. The device will be smart enough to pick up the challenges and link it with the right workaround, and in no time or in less time, fix the issue on hand. The moment they were able to do this, they move on to servitization business model. That's a true transformation. They went back to the customer to say that we are not going to sell aircraft engines anymore. You know what we are going to do? We are going to rent the engine. Rent the engine to you, dear customer. No worries about how the aircraft engine is going to performing. You worry only about the flying because your business is flying. We will take care of the engine and the engine quality, engine running. All that you need to do is pay us not for the product, pay us for the flying hours. With this engine, if you are able to get more and more flying hours, pay for the flying hours. This is a true transformation towards servitization and staging and experience. So from a commodity to move to innovative products, then products as a service, and then move towards staging and experience to the customer, which is servitization. Now, these are possible only when we bring in an embracive approach, only when we bring in an inclusive approach. Ways of working would typically connect all functions within. So it is not digital transformation external, it is internal. And then we do it like we say, you satisfy the internal customers, naturally external customers would be satisfied. So ways of working would connect with all. He's just a sample of departments. Different organizations will have their own functions and departments. It has to be a connector everywhere. And therefore, the key characteristics it has to carry has to be focused on flexibility, dynamism. We're talking about agility in the business, design thinking, empathize with the customer, try and understand how we can make him successful. Understand what challenges he goes through, not just buying our product, but because of our solution, where is he getting into? Thinking of servitization, innovative products, and therefore build the entire workforce around it with versatile talent. People are now talking about T-shaped skills, okay, and pie-shaped skills. Newer terms of skills are coming through. Versatile talent is important to focus on continued optimization. And friends, last but not the least, ways of working always goes towards total experience, not just user experience, customer experience, employee experience. It has to be a combination of all. And TX has become a strategy in most of the boardrooms. And therefore, aligning the ways of working with the entire transformation piece is not just an internal affair. It is actually going to be giving a focus towards external. So thinking of the custodians of ways of working initiative within the company should be, how do we enable our company's business model to change so that we can go and resolve a problem for the customers? Then the customers will start seeing as a partner, and that's a true servitization, which will eventually go on to the pricing model, calling it as outcome-based pricing model. If you have to put all these pieces together, now what are the core capabilities we need? We need to have common awareness and understanding. There has to be a not isolated approach, together cohesive approach. Well-informed decision making is part of the capabilities, and speedy and flexible execution is going to be order of the day. The project that the engagements that we have been doing over the 5 years, if you have been taking for the same scope of work for 1 year, can we now take just 2 to 3 months with the interventions of digital transformation? Therefore, how the ways of working has to be defined to get the organization covering the entire ecosystem. Some levers you would see what Ramesh already covered earlier. Organization culture, I don't want to touch on that. He already covered very nicely in terms of putting the entire ecosystem together. We'll have to play like an orchestra together to bring in that complete transformation. And my penultimate slide, Adore Digital. I think at this point in time, as we are getting ready for staying relevant, staying for the survival as well as sustenance, and also make ourselves ready for the future, digital acumen is very important. And while we all go on digital, discipline is all the more needed now, because we are not going to be in person available all the time. Somewhere we may be available, somewhere we have to be connected through remote. Discipline is absolutely essential to get things right. We talked about digital orchestration, rigor. I think in the component of DVF framework, we have got to change. Let's be now, if not never. Then experience. At the end of the day, let's always think we have gone out the days of selling products. selling services. Let's think about selling experience, because customers are going to come to us for the experience. Customers' experience starts right from the first conversation, right from cold call. So ways of working I'm talking about is right from that first touch point with the customer. How do we go and do the capability messaging for our customers? In fact, I heard certain very nice stories now, recent times that are taking place, where a salesperson who's interacting with the prospective customer carries a wearable device. Device can hear the interactions with the permission of the customer, use the device to make the presentation of the organization capability. Upon hearing the customer's question, for example, have you done similar such engagements to any of the other customers, any of the other organizations, other sectors? The devices identifies them, and to the salesperson populates automatically. These are the 5 engagements you've done, which is similar to this. And in no time, salesperson can answer the questions without saying, I will get back to you, sir. Or in terms of bringing up his own knowledge, connect to the database. And now a salesperson stands in front of the client prospect, representing the whole might of the organization, not just himself, or with his own acquired knowledge about the company. Company's knowledge is coming to him through the transformation journey that he's going through. So that's how we are going to augment the entire collaboration between human and technology. Get ready for Industry 5.0 and Quality 5.0 with cobots coming in, ready to work with machines, like almost we've been working with our human being, connected and secure work environment to come through from the space perspective, and completely inclusive angle of engaged and empowered workers aligned to new digital skills. This is the way the world is moving towards, and ways of working has to also bring in a lot of business flavor in the way we do things. It's not just about remote working alone. Remote working is just one part of it, but the ways of working is a method, the way that we run various functions, execute various activities in different departments. I'm hearing even in HR, onboarding has been automated, right? Onboard tools are available, which should now help the new incumbent coming in to get familiarized with the organization. And the feedback I have received in the recent times, and the onboarding technology tool is doing much, much better than the human interventions, right? Again, nothing to say that machines are better than human. That it only gives way, because we can't do as a human interventions consistently if you have to do the same thing, and it becomes monotony and mechanical. That's where we need machine to take over. We want to think, get into a think tank mode. I think the fact that we are moving towards building that kind of a culture where seamlessly we are going to align the way we do things, the way we conduct business, to align with the overall digital transformation, therefore making our customers and our end clients successful in the eyes of their customers, successful in their business. And the larger responsibility would come from WOW method, which is nothing but ways of working, friends. So this is where I wanted to cover. And let me again, at this point in time, thank all the participants for sparing a very valuable time, being very patiently hearing to me. Maybe I'll now open the floor for questions and maybe for the discussions. Over to you, Dr. Rajaram.
Fantastic presentation, both Ramesh and Shankaran. I think you set the tone for the conference, which was the main objective. So the concept, Door Digital, I think this is going to be reverberating and resonating with everybody. So the key question for everyone now is, hey, if the prelude itself is going to be so exciting, then how the conference is going to be. I think we have some of the best people for the conference, the likes of the CEO of GE Gas and Energy for entire South Asia. He is going to be there. He is going to be talking about how the digital transformation is happening in his space. And this is a very unique conference where we have the founder of Rediff, right? He is going to be there. He is going to be talking about in his own experience, how the model is evolving, the digital transformation maturity is evolving. And from his experience of building Rediff to the point today, he is a Python coder, right? Even today he is working on various things. So he is going to be talking, bringing a very different perspective. Of course, our conference chair, Dr. L.N. Rajaram, who is one of the core founding members of SPIN Chennai, and totally a process-oriented person. So he is going to be looking at it. He is going to be setting the tone for what is the process which is evolving out of this whole exercise. How can we build a systematic way to advance digital maturity? And then we are going to have a partner from KPMG, Shankaran's team. Then we are going to have pharma, for example, Dr. Reddy's Laboratories. We are going to see the digital transformation director, Nazrullah Khan. He is going to be there. Then we are going to see the person who transformed the Center for Railway Information Systems. The entire railway reservation project is a huge transformation, which we notice a whole lot of transformations happening in the private space, right? But we failed to notice way back in late 1980s, early 1990s, this kind of digital transformation happened. The entire railway reservation with so much of complexities. That day, Dr. LNR was talking about it, amazed at the number of challenges, number of different options which they have to really balance before achieving the railway reservation system. We are going to see then in banking scenario, DBS Bank, the SVP, she's going to be there. She's going to be talking about how agile and digital transformation is making a big role in the banking space. We are going to see from ABB, right? The Chief Digital Officer of ABB. ABB is a company which is known for huge digital transformation. And the man right at the center of all of this, Mr. Rajesh Ramachandran, is going to be talking about that case study. Then we are going to have Satish Pala, ex-HP, who is now the CTO at Indium Software. Very, very interesting and a very diverse case study and perspectives he is going to bring to the table. So I think there are a few more. The persons who devised the digital architecture for India, Dr. Pallab Saha, he is going to be there. Then we have also invited Mohandas Pai. We have invited the Chief Minister, the IT Minister, the IT Secretary, E-Governance Commissioner. There are a whole lot of people, experts, as well as government personnel, because the digital transformation cannot happen in isolation. It needs a government, it needs corporate, it needs academia. Everybody needs to be there. So part of that. So that is what to our SPIN Chennai, we are going to bring a very different perspective. And the model, what we come out with over the next few months, will have quite wide-reaching applications, and will be easy to implement digital transformations. So having said that, we would like to open the floor for any questions. You can unmute, ask your questions, and I would also request Dr. Elena to say a few, summary words about the conference.
You want now or after the questions?
After the questions.
Okay.
Ramesh and Shankaran, the sessions was very good. I think a lot of thought process on the digital transformation given. It was really, we all enjoyed the session. Thank you so much for that. My question to Shankaran is, when any corporate, they are looking into the digital transformation, they should get into the phased manner. Because a lot of constraints, you might be understanding, budget is one of the constraints, but n number of constraints are there. So on the other, so the chronologically, the phase out, the time buckets are different. Coming down to the technology, the biggest challenge is the lifetime of the technology is shorter. So there is always a mismatch between the time buckets and the taking up these phased manner. So at any point after them, the corporates will be facing the scalability and stability of the transformation process. So how digital transformation, under your thoughts, is going to address this issue?
Excellent question. Thank you, Valki. In terms of adapting the whole methodology, there's a madness to the method, right? The approach has to be correct, all right? Some of the organizations in the Western world today have now come back and said, you have to see right from the inception of adapting digital transformation. And they use a powerful method called Ora Papa. I don't know how many of us have heard about this. Ora Papa typically stands for, with O stands for opportunities. So look at the opportunity of the transformation in the context of the organization. That's number one. As you rightly said, the phased approach, this is one of the approach, right? Opportunities. Second one, Ora Papa R. R stands for risk. Evaluate the risk very carefully in the context of the company. We know better about our organization, about our people, how fast they will scale up, how fast they will not scale up, what will be the time needed. So risk has to be evaluated. A stands for alternatives. Explore alternatives. There should not be a rush to get it quickly done because my competition holds it. All right, let's carefully evaluate the alternatives. High quality alternatives are picked up so that we invest on them. That's A. P stands for past experience. Our own organization in the past have got a combination of failed initiatives, successful initiatives. Combinations are always there, will be there in every organization. Carefully weigh the failed experience so that we learn from it, and successful initiatives in the past, what contribute to the success. Look for the past experience. Next is data and analytics. Let's not leave, because it's a data driven decision at the end of the day. Context of the company, how do we do the analysis? Then the next P stands for people. Take people into confidence. It's an inclusive approach, because unless otherwise they come in, you will not be able to make the difference. So people. And the last A stands for alignment. It's like a wheel balancing we do in the car. So alignment with everything. So the methodology is called Ora Papa. In fact, in Japan, when people, we all know that sushi restaurant brought in a great transformation through conveyor belt mechanism of serving the food. The first step before getting the idea and after freezing on the blueprint, the CEO of the sushi restaurant decided to upskill the workers first. On the shop floor, on the area, there are not going to be any waiters anymore, because waiters' role is obsolete. But I don't want to send the waiters home. Let me upskill the waiters first, get them ready that in the event that we are going to do conveyor belt mechanism, we don't want waiters. What will the waiters do? Upskill them first, get them ready, then do the installation of the initiative of the entire conveyor belt and put the mechanism. So similar in a company, you've got to get the people ready, because otherwise they don't know. There will always be a sense of anxiety, sense of fear. With all of those, it's very difficult to take the transformation initiative successful. So that's one of the methods that we could leverage upon. So let me pause here, Mr. Balki. If I have answered your question, please correct me.
If I can also add to that is primarily we should look at making the entire digital transformation tool agnostic. Okay, if you look at it, the people and culture aspect is more important. Okay, tool is the means to achieve the goals, and tool itself is not, because tools, as we all know, we keep on, every day there is a new tool, new patches, everything keeps changing. So that is, if we go that route, it will be very, very difficult. We need to make as much as tool agnostic. This famous the luxury car, you would have seen this photo with luxury car, and there are several monkeys into it. So even if you monkeys were looking at various parts of it and trying to find out what it is. So I think the people is very, very important to say that how I can train them for tomorrow. The education, right from the education, for now people are only looking at your aptitude, how good you are. Today, if it is Python, can I learn Java? I cannot. Today, the technology is so desperate each other. So I cannot keep on going to talent hiring, saying that how many different talents I can hire, and tomorrow that technology may become completely obsolete.
Ramesh, I would like to add, this is a joking comment, which I often see in the industry. When you talked about the tool, the saying is, a tool with a fool So a tool with the fool, or a fool with the tool is still a fool, right? So just tools alone cannot really bring about digital transformation.
There is some
Absolutely.
other question. I think
Also
In
adding
fact,
to that,
thank you so much, Shankar and Ramesh. I think that was a fantastic idea, which I was not aware. But I mean, there is a good learning point today. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
for you to Shankaran from the post from
Saujanya.
Saujanya. I don't know.
Saujanya,
Are you able
sure.
to see the chat?
Yes, I'm able to see the question. I think it's a very interesting question from Saujanya in terms of looking at the partners. How do we look at? I think when we are taking up the transformation initiative, we are for sure we know the intent, what we want to do, and if we can't do ourselves, we go to the partner. And why do we bring the partner today? Some of the companies have started thinking about computing ROI very differently. It is not just ROI one time. It is called SROI, sustained return on investment. Return on investment comes not for the first time alone, and then you forget it. Because once you've got into the transformation with variety of ways of working, which may include many things, practices, as Ramesh rightly said, not limited to technology. But then once we do the first time ROI, then keep watching for that ROI on a scaled basis. That's called sustained return on investment. After about 2 years, after 3 years, what do you expect? That vision has to be very clear. If that is clear, that ROI with the sustained ROI will become the KPI for our partners. And partner must be paid eventually over a period of time, that I am signing up with you not for 1 year, not for 2 years, but you are going to be part of my supply chain. And therefore, my KPIs to you is going to be a sustained return on investment. And let's agree on that. I'm sure some of your partners will be very happy. Because remember, as we start our journey towards servitization, our partners should also start thinking about servitization, that I'm enabling you with the digital platform. And now over a period of time, the impediments and bottleneck with regard to the platform I gave to you, don't worry, I will take over all your headache. You focus on your business and seamlessly use my platform. And if you're able to help me in multiplying my business, on that multiplication, you pay me. And I think that's the outcome-based focus. Eventually, you can't pressurize them immediately, but it'll take some time. The partner need to work with you for some time. Both of you must have some understanding over a period of time. Then you can slowly move towards sustained ROI KPI and outcome-based pricing and revenue model, which will be a win-win situation for all three parties, partner, our organization, as well as our customers. So let me pause here to check with Saujanya if I have understood her question correctly and answered it.
Yeah, thanks, Shankar. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
You've answered it.
Interesting question. So I thought that I will also add a bit there. Partner is an excellent word that Saujanya we use, basically because there is a difference. There is a vendor ecosystem, there is a partner ecosystem. Vendors are primarily that I say this, you do it, instruction led. When I say somebody partner,
Yeah, looks like
He got disconnected, it seems.
yeah, there is a technical slack. So at this point, I would like to request everyone to think of all your questions for the conference. What is that you would like to be answered from the conference, and share it with us. That will help us answer many of your questions. Digital transformation during the conference. So we also encourage you to bring as many people as possible, so that they all get benefited from the conference.
I think Ramesh is back.
Yeah, go ahead, Ramesh.
I'm very sorry about it. I don't know where I got lost, but then got disconnected. What I was saying is primarily the difference between the partner is a very powerful word. What you bring into the table is basically trying to not to work in the basis of the instruction that is given. So I'm a partner, you tell me what needs to be done. So I did this for you and things like that. When you say partner, you work along with me in the transformation journey. You work along with me to ensure that my business is successful. You work along with me to ensure that I beat my competition, which means that I think like you, okay, which is very, very important. So that is where it is extremely important. So if one metric I need to look at it, I would say that if the partner is working on an instruction-led thing, that is not a partner. You need to look at it only one thing, that is a partner coming under the table and helping you, adding value and thinking like your company, thinking like you. I think that one measure is extremely important. Thank you.
Thanks, Ramesh. Now even the developer is called a partner actually.
Yeah,
So if experience is going to be a delivery, then developer is a partner.
Yeah, developer is called from remote places they are working and they are gamified for their performance actually.
Yeah. At this point, I would like to invite Dr. Eleanor.
Can I ask one more question if the time is there?
Yeah, this is the last question, please.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, other questions you have to attend the conference and ask.
Okay, I will park all the questions for that.
Is there any best question award in the?
Yeah, everything is there. You can come, you know.
The process actually, we write processes in the quality folks. Actually, we used to write process in this digital platform. It is there. The entire shift has come. Is there any tool actually which can be used to even for writing the process? There are tools which we have to pay and get it. Licensed tools are there. Is there any freeware tools are there which can be used? If the panelists can throw some light on that, it'll be great.
Sure. Probably, Ramesh, can I get started?
Okay, I don't think. I think there may be several tools, but I'm not aware of any tool that is available to develop a process. Maybe we can research and come back, but I think to my knowledge, I'm not sure whether there are tools in the market.
Sure. So just to add to what Ramesh also mentioned, I think my humble request in general thinking while answering this question is weigh the tool from the perspective of what features it bring in. Do not look for a freeware because it is free. Fairly a good chance it may not serve the purpose what you're looking for. So it's very important to evaluate certain tools. Secondly, tool will be there in terms of taking inputs, but it is not going to write process for you. We will have to provide, because process writing, defining the ways of working. For example, just we talked about Ora Papa method. Certain methods are the peak method in marketing and sales, digital sales. There are different types of methods. These methods have to be coined along with step-by-step activities we want to do in the context of our organization. And once we decide this, then we go to the tool to represent it. Don't expect the tool to write, because if tool is going to write, we all will become jobless. Then CEO will be having only robots with him to run the whole business. That's not the intent. Okay, tool will have its own limitations. It will say, I can project it. You have the inputs, give me the inputs. Let me take it forward and broad base it across the organization. In no time, I can spread it to all the place. But we will have to be very clear as to what kind of business model we want to be in. Right. And I think one of the famous person from the IT company very rightly said, in the movement of IT to DT, he mentioned the term IT to DT because it is disruptive technology, data technology, digital transformation, design thinking, everything is IT to DT. You know, the bigger concern is we are allowing machine to take decision on our behalf. That's the biggest problem today. When I go, I'm telling my kids, don't read news using the iPad, because the moment you see through the iPad or any devices or your phone to read the news, the algorithm in the backend will understand what type of news you are preferring, and it will only throw those related topics to you. If I've seen a couple of sports related news, then the rest are all what will come to me is only sports. Right? I may have to sizably work hard to go to a different topic. Right? You know, you can't allow the machine to take, you know, your role in terms of think tank. Think tank should come from us, and machine will execute. Mundanity, monotony, allow the machine to, you know, do the empowerment at this point in time. I think that would be my take at this point. I'm certain.
Thank you, Shankar. Over to you, Dr. Eleanor, for the closing comments.
Thank you. So I have 2 or 3 very disparate comments. One, of course, taking off from where Shankaran left, based on how tools decide what you will read. The term for that is cognitive capture. So it's a very, what I was about to use a 4-letter word, but it's a very exciting concept. And that's what most people in the media and people are there who would like to do that cognitive capture of your mind. So that is an aside. And secondly, again, taking off from what the question that Saujanya asked, I had a good input to provide. There is a document called Agile India Enterprise Architecture. Now, can you imagine who would have authored this document? Anybody? Yes. It's a very freely available document. You can download it. And it is very relevant to all the discussions that we had today. You know, this is a document authored, supported, and initiative was from the Government of India, Ministry of Information and Information Technology. And it has been authored by one of the speakers who is going to come to our conference. And why am I bringing up this topic is because of Saujanya's question about partners. This document, can you imagine a government document talking about the fact that old ways of getting into e-governance kind of software development and so on are now, it's not working for government. The old, so they have now brought out this architecture, that is the technology part that is different. But they also, in the true spirit of digital transformation, as Ramesh pointed out, they also talked about the culture and the skills, upskilling and so on. And the culture that they have mentioned there is that the old ways of contracting partners, in brackets, partners, like tendering process and vendors and so on, is just not, it just won't work in this new thing. So they are suggesting performance-based engagement. So it won't be a contractual obligation where you have one whole huge set of waterfall model kind of requirements, and then somebody takes on a 3-year, 4-year contract and tries to, by the time everything will change, the technology, everything will change. So they themselves are talking about, even the government, if the government can talk, why can't all of us follow that model, where they're talking about very, very immediate requirements, but in the context of this long-term architecture, and how to quickly get on and get that functionality going with the help of partners who can deliver it, that kind of experience to them. And based on that experience, their engagement will keep extended. So that is the model that even the government is talking about. So we'll hear more about it in the conference, hopefully. And so a lot of things that we covered in this short while today, this is going to be elaborated by more than 12, 15 speakers, each given slots in each session. They are going to talk about it. And so hence I would really like to say that it is going to be a great experience for you. So we are not selling you conference time. We are not selling you a knowledge there, but we are selling you an experience of attending such a conference where you will participate in contributing your knowledge in partnership with the conference organizer. So you can see I have used all the concepts and terms that has been talked about here. Thank you very much.
Dr. Eleanor, immediate takeaway. Instant takeaway.
Yes.
Yeah. Raghav, can you extend the vote of thanks, please?
Thank you, sirs. Thank you, participants, firstly for taking the time off on a Saturday evening and staying until the end of the session. We'd like to thank the speakers as well, Mr. Ramesh Krishnamurthy, the setting the tone for the conference and providing us the approach and giving a fantastic example of making the decisions real time with the football example that still I could remember. So we majority of the times we do the same thing in our projects. So only after what is happening on the floor, we take the decisions on that. And coming back to Shankaran, and then I'd like to acknowledge the fact that the moment we sent is VUCA replacing RUPT, or is RUPT replacing VUCA, suddenly we got 2-3 emails saying that I want to attend the session. Okay. So that's the thing. I think he gave the entire. I used to think that ways of working means only Agile. Okay, let's go and implement Agile in the client organization, and that's what I used to think. But we had a brief chat yesterday, and then he talked to us, and then he said it is not just one area where you are doing Agile and then working in a village or remote hybrid model is not just a high ways of working, but rather it starts from your marketing pursuit until the end of delivery and the support. And he gave a fantastic example of using the device, which we most of the times we say to our client organizations, we'll get back to you, and which we will take 2-3 days, and the client also sends one more mail saying, I have not received your document yet, I have not received your responses yet. So most of the times, even it happens 2 days back to me. So that's how it is. And then examples. Thank you, Shankaran sir and Ramesh sir, for the fantastic talk. It really sets the tone and tenor, and it is really a prelude for the conference. And with that, Rajaram, yeah, thank you.
Can you talk about the second prelude as well, September 11th?
Yeah, you want to talk, or I can talk on that?
Yeah, you mention it.
Okay. So with this, while we are doing this talk, we have next talk coming up on September 11th between 6 to 8 p.m. Again, it is going to be a prelude talk towards this PyCon 2021. It is going to be on the digital transformation. The topic is much more interesting. It is especially focused on academia, the digital transformation and its importance to students and academia. And we have Professor T.V. Gopal, who's an ardent supporter of SPIN Chennai, who's an active member also. He's going to be one of the speakers, and along with Ms. Nitya, who's from the Sona College of Engineering, the assistant professor there. So they both are going to speak about how digital transformation is influencing and impacting the academia and the students, how students should take it and the digital for good. So that's the topic we have planned on September 11th, followed by September 24th. We have the main conference. I would like to thank Ramesh sir and Shankaran sir once again for taking the time. In fact, it's intense 2 weeks we have been doing. I think they took a lot of time to speak here and the preparations. So thank you once again. Okay, and apologies for the technical glitches. Suddenly the it doesn't record. So the more option, the Zoom disappeared. That's why we could not live stream it. I know we made a commitment to the community that we will be live streaming, but I apologize for that. It was a technical glitch from my side. So thanks.
Thank you everyone.
Thank you. I think I'll stop the record.
Yeah, sure.